Imagine it is 2 in the morning. You wake up with a sharp, pulsing, electric pain in your lower jaw. Today, you know exactly what to do. You take an ibuprofen, call a clinic, and get a localized shot of Novocaine. Now, imagine waking up with that exact same throbbing pain in the year 1500. There is no clinic. There is no Novocaine. There is only a blacksmith in the village square with a pair of iron tongs. For most of human history, a toothache was not a minor inconvenience. It was a crisis, it was a source of madness, and in many cases, it was a death sentence. But if we go all the way back to the deep past, the story of human teeth is actually a paradox. You might assume that prehistoric cavemen had rotting, hideous mouths. The evidence suggests the exact opposite. When archaeologists examine skulls from 1,000 years ago, they frequently find nearly perfect sets of teeth. Prehistoric diets were incredibly tough and fibrous. People were chewing on roots, raw vegetables, and tough meat. This caused extreme wear, sometimes grinding the teeth down to flat nubs, but it did not cause cavities. There was simply no refined sugar to feed the bacteria that destroy enamel. Then, human beings made a fatal mistake for our mouths. We invented farming. When we shifted from hunting and gathering to eating massive amounts of grain, everything changed. Grain breaks down into fermentable carbohydrates. Carbohydrates turn into sugar. Sugar feeds bacteria, and bacteria excrete acid. As soon as agriculture took over the world, human skulls started showing massive, gaping black holes in their teeth. We changed our diet faster than our biology could adapt. So, how did ancient people fight back? In a Neolithic graveyard in Pakistan, archaeologists found teeth from 9,000 years ago with perfect, tiny holes drilled directly into the enamel. The tool they used was a miniature bow drill tipped with a piece of sharp flint. There was no anesthesia, just two people holding you down, while a third spun a rock into your exposed nerve. 6,000 years ago, in what is now Slovenia, someone tried a gentler approach. A cracked human tooth was found packed with a plug of pure beeswax. It is the world's oldest known dental filling, designed to seal the exposed tissue and stop the agonizing pain when chewing. But for thousands of years, people didn't actually know what a cavity was. Without microscopes, humanity needed a villain they could understand, and incredibly, almost every major civilization came to the exact same conclusion. From ancient Sumeria to dynastic China to medieval Europe, everyone agreed on the culprit, the tooth worm. People believed that a literal tiny demon worm was living inside your skull, boring tunnels through your bone. When the tooth throbbed, that was the worm moving around. When the pain stopped, the worm was just resting. Because they believed in the worm, they invented insane ways to evict it. In medieval England, a popular remedy was to heat up a brick, sprinkle it with the seeds of a toxic plant called henbane, and inhale the smoke through a funnel. As the seeds popped in the intense heat, the white insides burst out, making them look exactly like tiny, dead worms. The patient would see the fake worms fall out, the toxic smoke would make them dizzy and numb, and they went home believing they were cured. Until the pain came back. But not all ancient remedies were fake. Some of them were accidental genius. For centuries, people across the world packed aching cavities with crushed cloves. Today, we know that cloves contain a chemical compound called eugenol. Eugenol is a highly effective natural anesthetic and antibacterial agent. It literally numbs the nerve. Modern dentists still use it today to soothe inflamed pulps. If you have ever noticed that distinct, sharp, clinical scent in a dentist's office, you are smelling the exact same chemical a medieval peasant used to survive the night. But what happened when the clove oil stopped working? What happened when the tooth simply had to come out? You did not go to a doctor. Physicians considered the inside of the mouth to be a disgusting manual labor zone beneath their dignity. Instead, you went to the barber. The same guy cutting your hair and trimming your beard would strap you to a chair and pull out a tool called a dental pelican. The pelican looked less like a medical instrument and more like a medieval torture device used to pry open wooden crates. The barber would hook the metal claw over your rotting tooth, brace the fulcrum against your gum line, and twist sideways with all his body weight. It was brutally fast. It frequently shattered the tooth into splinters, and it routinely broke the patient's jawbone. By the Middle Ages, Tooth pulling had become a bizarre form of street entertainment. Traveling tooth drawers would set up stages in crowded market squares. They wore crazy hats and necklaces strung with hundreds of bloody human teeth. And because they had no painkillers, they hired musicians. Whenever they clamped the tongs onto a patient's tooth, a drummer would violently beat a drum to drown out the screaming. You might think that wealth bought you better treatment. It actually bought you worse teeth. When pure cane sugar first reached Europe, it was an incredibly rare luxury. Only the absolute elite could afford to eat it. Queen Elizabeth I loved sugar so much she reportedly brushed her teeth with honey. By her late 60s, her teeth were entirely black, rotting, and smelled horrific. Because only the rich could afford sugar, having black teeth became a twisted status symbol. Poorer people with healthy mouths would actually rub soot and ashes on their teeth before going out in public, just to look rich enough to afford the very thing that was destroying the elite. When teeth inevitably fell out, the rich wanted replacements. But early dentures were not made of wood. George Washington never had wooden teeth. His dentures were made of carved ivory, metal springs, and real human teeth. Where did the teeth come from? They were pulled from the mouths of the desperately poor, who sold them for pennies, or they were scavenged from the dead. In the early 1800s, the demand for false teeth was so high that armies of scavengers descended on European battlefields. After the Battle of Waterloo, thousands of teeth were ripped from the skulls of dead soldiers, packed into barrels, and shipped to London to be boiled, shaped, and wired into the mouths of wealthy aristocrats. They were literally known as Waterloo teeth. But the horror of the past wasn't just about pain or aesthetics, it was about survival. Why was a toothache so terrifying? Because before the invention of modern antibiotics, a rotting tooth was a ticking time bomb living inside your head. If a tooth in your lower jaw became severely infected, the bacteria could spread down into the soft tissues of your neck. This causes massive swelling, a condition known historically as Ludwig's angina. The neck swells so much that the airway is completely crushed. For centuries, people with bad lower teeth simply suffocated in their own beds. If the infection was in your upper jaw, the danger was even worse. The roots of your upper teeth sit just below your sinus cavity, which has a direct, porous pathway to your brain. An abscessed upper tooth could easily pump bacteria straight into the cranial vault. People routinely went mad from the pain, suffered violent seizures, and died of brain infections. A bad tooth was not a medical footnote. It was a leading cause of death. It was a predator that you carried around with you every single day. Today, we complain about the drill, we hate the waiting room, we dread the bill, but we sit in that reclining chair, under the bright lights, wrapped in a paper bib, completely blind to the absolute miracle happening around us. We are the first humans in the history of the world who do not have to live in mortal terror of our own mouths. The next time you feel a twinge in your jaw, don't just reach for the pain meds. Take a second to appreciate the modern world and be deeply, profoundly grateful that you won't be visiting the blacksmith in the morning.